Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Podcast. I'm Fitz, Gills, and Cole all together again, just like we were in the stand/press area for Farmogeddon over in Ireland. Cole is back on the job, forming young minds at Olathe North. I got it right?
You got it right.
Yeah, that's the one on top. It's north and the south down there. Okay, we're going to take your questions from Wabash Station. That's what we do here. That's the whole purpose of this. Our subscribers get to ask the questions. Everyone gets to listen to the answers, as knowledgeable as they are. For the podcast listeners, that was me looking around for knowledge. And if you're not subscribing, it's time to do so. Look, I know the football season got off to a start you didn't expect. I didn't expect it either. Iowa State expected it, and that's how we got here. It's going to be a great football season. It's going to be very entertaining. This team has a tremendous upside that wasn't fully shown in Dublin. We are 50% off at GoPowercat.com right now. Make sure you go subscribe to GoPowercat.com because we are going to take you on a ride this season, and I think you're going to enjoy it. You'll certainly enjoy the community at GoPowercat.com on our premium message board, Wabash Station. And here we go with your first question. I haven't even looked at these, so this is going to be fun. Don't touch my Willie. Gills. But what unit disappointed most last week, and you feel they will be fine sooner than later? What unit disappointed last week, and you're convinced they'll be the wink link all season?
This is a good question. I like this one, Gilbert. Good job.
Don't thank me. Don't touch my Willie.
Oh, thank you. Don't touch my Willie.
Willie will be no problem to do that. I don't know. Was I disappointed in any unit? Running back, it's going to be fine. I was disappointed. I think it's going to be fine. Now, if Dylan Edwards is going to be out for a while, we might see someone else pushed to the forefront. Not to be cruel to Joe Jackson here, but that didn't work for me. It just didn't seem like there was going to be a serious breakout threat. He wasn't going to run away from people, but that's just a quick glance on a sloppy surface. I'm not sure. Someone else take a crack at that first part. What's going to be okay?
It's hard for me to jump to conclusions about disappointment for all the reasons that you said. Maybe underperforming, I think, could be a better word. What group do you feel most underperformed instead of disappointed? I mean, to me, like every position group showed flashes of being pretty dang good. I mean, offensive line was really good in the first half, guys. Like they were moving the ball on the ground. I don't want to say at will, but they had rushed for, I remember looking at the stats. I believe it was close to 5 yards per carry in that first half. And then Iowa State made adjustments. And then K-State readjusted because they had success throwing the ball. So, like, I guess I'll say the offensive line as far as, like, what unit disappointed me that I think could be a weak link just because there's 5 positions on the offensive line, right? Like, not every single offensive lineman is going to be all Big 12. And so when you ask me who's the weakest link, well, there's bound to be somebody on the offensive line. So I think maybe right now that position's right tackle. And I think, quite honestly, guys, like the interior offensive line is going to be fine. They have a lot of options that they can rotate there. But that tackle position more specifically is maybe the one that we're going to be talking about just because it's the easiest to. I realize I answered this question in reverse fashion now, but I'm with you on the running backs, Fitz. I think they're going to be fine because if you get Dylan Edwards back at some point, then that completely changes that running back room.
By and large, I think you can kind of lump cornerbacks and safeties into one with the secondary, and they didn't have their best game. A couple times where Iowa State was able to hit some chunk plays on Joe Klanderman's defense. And so I think once the season gets going, VJ Payne, for example, is a guy that has a lot more left in the tank, compared to what he showed on Saturday. They can improve and get better upon this, and I do believe they will sooner, rather than later. Getting Gunnar Maldonado back and if he can be on the field for most of the snaps with the starters rather than playing in here and there, that's going to help with his experience. So just the secondary as a whole, I think, is going to get a lot better, especially above the neck with all the mishaps that happened last season with, Siegel and Jordan Riley. I've got a lot of faith in these younger guys stepping up, or Payne or Maldonado, who have experience, to kind of take a step forward. And if you guys want to switch gears to guys, a group that I am maybe a little concerned about is the wideouts. Don't come at me. They had a fine game. Jace did some explosive things with his legs as well, but this is not an all-conference wideout room like we were kind of told to believe here all throughout the offseason. They can be fine. They can get you through some games. I did not see enough on Saturday out in Dublin to convince me that that's going to be a position group that takes over games. Now, I get it. It was wet. It was slippery, but it was wet and slippery for Iowa State defenders as well. So I don't want to use that as an excuse for a lack of explosiveness for those pass catchers. And also, guys, the number of drops. I think Brown had one. Was it Bradley had another? The fourth down one was crucial. A ball hits you in the hands. You've got to catch it. So that group the wideout group is not out of the woods yet for me.
Can I add this before you go, Fitz? I don't necessarily. I agree that they're not out of the woods, Ryan, because there was definitely some plays that they should have made, no doubt. But I actually am kind of on the other end of the fence. I was pretty encouraged with what I saw, simply because, and maybe this is more of a coaching thing, and I don't think Matt Wells necessarily had a horrible game like some people believe. I actually thought he was pretty creative in terms of some of the play designs and the shifts and the motions and everything. Now, could he have called a better game? I think he would tell you that too. Yeah, he definitely could have, but they were schemed open multiple times. Go back and watch some of that tape, and they were schemed open. And not saying that that's on the receivers. I'm actually saying they were schemed open, and they completed the pass, and they caught the ball. And they go back and look at Jaron Bradley's touchdown pass, guys, and Avery Johnson threw that ball on the run. He thought that was going to have to be a hole shot, meaning catch the ball, and Bradley was going to get hit. But because he did a nice job of stacking his route, he caught the ball and ran for a touchdown. So there's little things that I think these receivers did that maybe the receivers last year for K-State didn't do. And while there was some drops, no doubt about it, I was actually pretty encouraged that they don't have to be game changers. They don't have to be game breakers. They just have to be above average or even average. And I thought that they were average on Saturday.
You know why that play works so well with Bradley is Avery did leave the pocket. And that corner or safety, I don't know which it was peeking into the backfield, lost track of who was in his area and got behind him. That's another good argument for letting Avery get out and move. And don't ask him to try to scramble for yardage out of the pocket, but if he needs to, he's on the move already. I think getting him to move around would be a good part of this offense, because then his run threat becomes very obvious to the defenders who are trying to cover. But if we're looking for a disappointment that I'm worried about for the whole year, I'm back on special teams, boys. I'm back on special teams. Aside from the kickoff, your first special teams play of the year is an enormous mistake, an enormous error. Now they got off the hook because they gave the ball right back. But as we pointed out, you ended up playing the entire first half on a short field, or on a long field, because of that fumble. You were in a field position deficit for half the game on a sloppy surface. You're lucky it was tied. Or I don't think luck's the right word. You did an excellent job to get it tied out of those circumstances. But I am fed up as much as I can be fed up without losing my mind with special teams. At this point, I just want you to stop screwing up. Just don't hurt the team. It's gone from being a giant plus to a negative. That's unacceptable. It's exhausting. This is part of the secret sauce that helped Kansas State football succeed. You could always put more work and be a little bit more dangerous in special teams than an overall superior opponent. You can use that as a way to force your way into games that you shouldn't be in. And when you're outstanding already, when you're a pretty good team and you have special teams, you're going to kick some ass. This team isn't good enough to be bad in special teams. Few teams are. It's got to stop, guys. It's just this crap has got to stop. Anything else?
I'm going to say something about the special teams before we go. Because that's a great thing to bring up, and I'm with you. But here's my thing. The things we don't know are just as intriguing as the things we do know. We know that Dylan Edwards muffed the punt, and we know that he muffed the punt inside the 10. We think, typically, that you're told, hey, heels on the 10, the ball goes over your head, let it go. However, in this new age of football, there is a lot of analytics, and a lot of times in the NFL, those guys will say, hey, if the ball goes over your head, you can catch it if it's between the 5 and the 10. We want you to make a play if it's between the 5 and the 10 because these punters are so good. If they down it, if it hits before the 5-yard line, a lot of the times you're pinned inside the 5. And so we don't know if Dylan was told, if the ball is over your head, we want you to catch it. Because honestly, guys, what I could see happening if I'm the special teams coach, and I don't necessarily think this is the wrong strategy, it didn't work. If you can catch the ball, we want you to make a guy miss. Unless you feel like you're going to get smoked, you can use a fair catch. But if you can catch the ball, we want you to catch the ball and make a guy miss. And when I go back and watch that play, Dylan Edwards was trying to make a guy miss as he was catching the ball. Should it have been a fair catch? Yes. But what we don't know is if he was told to catch the ball no matter what and make a guy miss. So I think that's something worth pointing out. I'm not going to hang everything on Dylan because we don't know what the messaging was coming from the top.
I agree. Next question from Kevin316. Coach Kleiman's culture plus a player-led team seems to lead to softness over hard-nosed football. Agree or disagree? I don't think being a player's coach has anything to do with the kind of football you play. I don't. If you're thinking Chris Kleiman didn't get on his players, you're wrong. I think this is more of a function of who the leaders are on this team. Sometimes that guy that's going to MF you needs to be a colleague on the roster, a teammate, friend, not from above. But you could probably make an argument that the absence of Connor Riley leaves a unfilled role of ass kicker on the coaching staff. But I don't necessarily think they're soft because Coach Kleiman isn't an old school yeller and screamer. I would argue that that doesn't work. I'm sure Matt Campbell gets on people, but I don't think he would be considered a dick to his own players. No, he's going to lose his
back-to-back shows. You said that word now, Fitz. Good job.
What Peni?
The D word.
Oh, the D word. Yeah, I like that's a good word. Unless your name Dick. No, I don't think that goes with it. Avery's a cool, calm kid. Not always ideal. You sometimes want your quarterback to grab someone by the face mask and say, "We're going to go do this." And I mentioned this on the DD today, daily delivery, or yesterday, as you're watching this. I think Avery needs to manufacture some of that. It doesn't come naturally, but leaders give those around them what they need. I'm not a natural nitpicker with my guys, but if someone needs it, they're going to get it. And I've done that before. They didn't like it very much. So, yeah, I would like to see more edge from the team. But I think as we talked about on the Insiders, and again, this was going to be my topic for what is now today's DD, but I got onto the Farmageddon name thing. That tussle or lack thereof on the sideline is not the coach to say, don't go over the sideline and protect your players. Yeah, those guys need to step up. When someone goes into the opposing sideline, go get them out of there. Don't abandon your middle linebacker, Austin Romaine, to be surrounded by a bunch of Cyclones. It's just part of the culture of football. That's kind of it's almost like you go behind enemy lines and retrieve your guy. They didn't look interested in that. And that was troubling. And that doesn't come from the coaches. Go get your guy. I don't know. Who wants
Gilbert?
to roll?
You guys remember what happened when Bruce Weber in basketball had a Barry Brown or a Rodney Magruder leading his locker room? He wins Big 12 titles, and when not, his team's kind of torpedoed in a sense. And so right now, who is that alpha in the locker room? I mean, I'll wait. I don't know. I don't think there is one that you can certainly say sticks out. And even on the coaching staff, it's like you said, with Connor Riley departing, somebody's got to be that guy, that D word that Fitz mentioned earlier. I just don't see that on this team. And that is part of it when you have sort of that player-led program. Now, that's been a staple for Chris Kleiman, and players want to play for him. I think you can get the best out of your players when that's kind of the scenario, but somebody has to lead within the locker room that's not a coach. And right now, I'm sure Avery's doing his best to lead, but Avery Johnson's a good kid. He's a good young man, right? He's not going to just yell at one of his teammates. I'm sure he can get on a guy a time or two, but who is that guy that commands the respect of his peers? We just haven't seen that, and that was evidenced in that scuffle on the Cyclone sideline earlier in that game, Fitz.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, guys. And maybe my perspective is a little different just because, being around as a coach and then seeing it as a, from this perspective, you kind of look at things a little bit differently. And I think for anybody to call this team soft is, quite frankly, absolutely ridiculous after one game. Like, if we want to have this conversation in a month, if they lose 2 more games and they're 1-3 going into whatever game that would be to be the second game in the Big 12, like, fine. But to call this team soft because of one game where they lost by 3 points to a team that's going to contend for the Big 12 championship, you can call out their play. You can call out how the game was coached. You can call out how they dropped the ball. But to call this team soft, I think, is incredibly premature. And quite frankly, it just isn't factually true. You're right. That scuffle on the sideline indicates something. To me, guys, what it indicates is a team still trying to find their identity. This team is still trying to find its identity. What kind of team do they want to be? Do they want to be that team that, as it seems like fans want to go off and yell at each other after every single mistake? There's a difference between showing fire and being stupid. And it seems like there's a lot of folks that are just calling for that. And to me, it's just ridiculous. And I don't think this team is soft. I don't think Chris Kleiman's culture of player-led breeds softness. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You don't get to that point. You don't win national championships because you have soft teams. And so people need to drop that because, quite frankly, it's ridiculous.
Well said.
I would say Kansas State was the softer team on Saturday.
I agree with that.
So was it one game, like you said, Cole? It was just one game. If it becomes a pattern, you can be really concerned. But in a vacuum, it happened. Flush it, move on. You've got a game on Saturday like K-State's been focusing on. But in Dublin, Iowa State seemed to wanted it more on some of those big plays when you were told to toughen up in those plays where it mattered most.
Very good. Every day a Wildcat. Sorry.
Get it right.
I'm partially blind. After week 0, what's a more likely outcome this season? A trip to Arlington or 6-6 season? I don't see any way this team's going 6-6. One of the things I love about I don't love, that's a bad word. I am fascinated with losses, the overreaction. You lost to a really good football team. And there was always a chance of losing this game. Folks, whether it was in Manhattan, Ames, or Dublin, the home field doesn't seem to matter much in this game. Apparently, foreign fields don't matter. Now, if they lose a game in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to buy it. But if you think they're going to end up going, what it'd be, I can't do the math right now. 3-6 in the Big 12. What? That doesn't make sense to me. That means, you're not going to beat UCF or, you can go through the list of teams. Maybe they're not going to be 10-2 as I predicted. but I think they'll be 9-3. I do. Unless something goes horribly wrong. An Avery injury is the Achilles heel, and they're trying to protect against it. And I think they were so cautious it cost them a game. But hopefully there's a lesson learned there.
Gilbert?
On Tuesday, our odds, analytics, and projections piece that we do every week on the site. It's free to read. Everybody can go check that out. ESPN's FPI, I included that here in the release on Tuesday. 93.2% chance to win 6 games, which is bowl eligibility. So that seems pretty likely. However, the projected win-loss total for Kansas State is 7.7 and 4.4. So that's obviously a lot closer to 6 than it is to getting to Arlington, which would likely be 10, 11, who knows. But to lose to UCF, to lose to those teams that are probably going to be at the bottom. I know the Big 12 is so dang unpredictable, guys. Oklahoma State, probably not going to be a great team, but you never know. But for Kansas State to drop blunder after blunder in Big 12 play does seem really unlikely. Now, that's been, you mentioned an Achilles heel with Avery Johnson, Chris Kleiman's Fitz. I just called you Chris Fitz.
Thank you.
Restart. Okay. Fitz, you mentioned Avery's Achilles heel. I will say Chris Kleiman's Achilles heel is that blunder he has once a year. Last year it was Houston, right? We can go down the line with his seasons at Kansas State. Yeah. He has one of them, right? And I wouldn't call the Iowa State loss one of those games because Iowa State, like you said, is a good football team. Chris Kleiman might have one of those later on in the year, but I'm not expecting him to have 3, 4, 5 of them. So it's going to be tough to get to Arlington. You have Iowa State as a leg up on Kansas State in the standings, and K-State before the season essentially even starts has a loss on its schedule. So that stings for the standings to get to Arlington, but to go 6-6, man, you would really have to struggle and tank. So I do get the question. I think it's a fair question because, I mean, you do have a loss before anything happens from here on out. So that's going to put you below everybody else. But I think Kansas State's odds of getting to Arlington are not great, but they're better than just squeaking by and barely making the Fitzgerald Residence Bowl. Is that a bowl?
I don't know.
I just made that up.
They're
that in the backyard.
Sure.
Yes, they do.
I'll make sure we get better chalk.
Right.
Yeah.
As we
That's
learned,
why K-State lost.
as we learned, the Fitzgerald name is very common in Dublin, so maybe the Fitzgerald Bowl will be back there at Aviva Stadium. Look, they're not going to go 6-6. If they go 6-6, then as we've said, something horribly has gone wrong. Something has gone horribly wrong. Sorry, words are tough today. Something has gone horribly wrong. So the answer is, for me, is pretty easy. Like, they have a better chance of making Arlington than they do going 6-6. And that game, had they won 24-21, guys, let's be honest, we're having the exact same conversations. You know what the difference is? If we're looking at it from this perspective, Joe Jackson doesn't fumble, K-State's chance of scoring on that drive increased significantly. If K-State kicks a field goal on that possession, the odds of winning go up drastically. And if they score a touchdown, they probably win the game just because of how things change. And so you can say the same thing. We can play the what-if game all day long, but the bottom line is Iowa State beat K-State by 3 points. My thinking of Kansas State has not changed because they lost to Iowa State by 3 points. Had they won by 3 points, it would be the same thing. I still have total confidence in this team. You can choose not to have confidence in this team, and that's totally okay. That's what fans do. Fan is short for fanatic, as we always like to say. So if you're not someone who is on board with this team, well, first of all, you're probably not listening to this podcast right now. Second of all, you have that right. If you want to play the wait and see game, I'm right there with you. It's hard to get to that point. It's hard to get to Arlington. It's not hard to win 6 games. So I understand the question, but no, I don't think this team goes 6-6. I think they still have just as good a chance as anybody else in this conference to be one of those 2 teams in Arlington.
That was nice. That was pleasant. Thanks for calling me Chris. I feel like I should take a shot at myself. Every press conference, the man's a monster.
75-year-old.
I'm not 75 years old.
Chris Kleiman would be proud of me for making fun of your name.
Onward. Still hate Drew Brees. Boy, that's a bitter fan. You go back to 98. Alamo Bowl with your. We didn't even know who he was back then. The guy's more great quarterback. Is it more important for your program to play a vanilla game against North Dakota, or should we try to hang 50 on them? I personally feel like our fans need a blowout. I'm with you. I would like to see this team come out for the next 3 weeks in these non-conference games, including Arizona, with an attitude that we are absolutely going to destroy you. You will tell your kids in 30 years about the time that you played Kansas State and got absolutely humiliated. Chris Kleiman isn't one to do that typically. Bill Snyder 2.0 wasn't. But Bill Snyder 1.0, he gave no craps. Would he call off the dogs, in the second half at some point? Yeah. But I remember a game when it was in the 60s at the end of the third quarter, and that wasn't by chance or fortune. They just lined up and kicked KU's butt for 3 quarters and then called off the dogs. This team needs to get that attitude that they are going to take care of business. They are going to make a memory for someone that will haunt them. And that really is where I'm at with this team. They're not soft. I want them to be, to use the word again, bigger dicks. Go out there and be assertive and get after it. I don't know. Why do I keep using the word dicks? I'm not sure. Does anyone know why? Is there a psychologist in our audience?
It's your phone. Every time you open our group chat with the 3 of us.
Now that makes it sound like we've got some kind of image that.
Yes. I'm gonna divert from this conversation.
Let's move on.
No more questions regarding that.
North Dakota was picked 7th in the Missouri Valley. Keep in mind, guys, Missouri Valley is a really, really good FCS conference. And I have long been of the belief that the top FCS programs play in the Missouri Valley, and it shows year after year in the postseason. If you take some of those teams and you put them in the MAC, they're making a bowl game. And that's not something to be taken lightly. So I don't think North Dakota is going to be bad. I don't think North Dakota is very good. Their defense, and we'll get into this on the pregame podcast, but K-State's going to be able to score on their defense. Their offense is legit. Like they got a returning quarterback. They've got some good running backs. They got some offensive linemen back.
North Dakota has a different quarterback. He got beat out. Right.
Well, because the next guy was so good, right? Yeah. So they have.
Sorry, I don't know if that's what you meant or not, but
no. Yes, thank you. But they have an offense that can be solid. Thank you, Gilbert. We
were so on the ball during the insiders, and today we're all like, "What are words?" I'm like,
can you score 50? My question is this: can you score 50 points and not blow them out and still be happy? Because I feel like fans just want to see touchdowns.
Fans want blood.
Yeah,
they do.
I want your blood, Fitz.
No, that's not. It's probably not healthy. It probably has like a butterscotchy flavor to it. Next question.
Hey, I didn't even get to talk on this question, Fitz. Fitz is trying to silence the old Gilbert, huh? It's unbelievable stuff going on here.
Ryan Gilbert, you got any thoughts on this?
I just have one thought. And Chris Kleiman, you had him on your Life of Fitz this summer, right? You brushed over the topic of playing the following week after going to Ireland. Mm-hmm. Well, this is exactly why you want to hang 50 points on North Dakota. The train is moving. You are on it now. And if you go out and win 24-6, and you hide your playbook and you just try to get by, and are you really hitting the ground running for the season? No, you've got to go out and just play. And the Iowa State game is behind you. Everything's in full swing now. Go hit some home runs, swing for the fences. Don't try to just get by in this game on Saturday, right? This is why you moved, or excuse me, this is why you didn't want the bye week following your game in Ireland. Season's here.
Yep.
You stay on this ship and you keep going. And your foot is on the gas.
Here we go. Buyers DVM. Other than win, what does this team need to do for the rest of the non-con to make you feel better about the team as a whole heading into conference play? I think I just kind of outlined it. I want to see an assertive nature to them that they're the superior team and they're going to win. I still believe they were the superior team against Iowa State. I don't think Iowa State's as good as I thought they would be. And yet Kansas State lost. And I think that's because of that mentality I'm talking about. Iowa State had it and Kansas State didn't. So I'd like to see signs of that they are angry about what happened in Dublin, and they're going to go on a redemption tour through this schedule. I'd like to feel that. I haven't gotten that feeling, but we haven't had players other than a few. I don't know how they'll react, but if they react without much energy and go through let's be honest, North Dakota isn't that great. They could go through the motions and their speed would dictate make probably a 5-touchdown win. If it's less than that, I'd be disappointed, but they need more than that. They need to hurt someone's feelings, not hurt someone, but just make them hang their heads in shame. You need to beat someone so bad. Chris Kleiman needs to go to the other locker room and say, hang in there. You're going to be a great football team. Man, I want to see it. I think most fans do. And certainly as someone who covered this program for a long time, I would love to see these guys react with some true emotion.
Here's where I'm at. The question is, what do you need to see other than win? I agree with everything you said, Fitz, but typically, week one, we're looking at what do you need to see when you're playing an FCS opponent? And we sit here and we talk about it and we say, oh, well, they need to do this. We need to see play from the receivers. We need to see plays from the defensive backs. I feel like that game was like the pretest. That was the pretest. Let's see what you got. K-State was able to, as Monty and Big B talked about it on the post-game podcast. I thought it was great. Now K-State knows what its flaws are, right? They took the pretest. They realized what they need to study up before they get to the test, which is conference play and maybe even Arizona. So work on that the next 2 weeks. Just get incrementally better at what your flaws were on Saturday. Improve the offensive line play. As Big B, he even broke it down a little bit more in one of the VIP pieces. Get better at blocking in space. That's one thing you can get better at, right? Yeah. Let's see improvement there. As a safety, Logan Bartley, right? He gets burned. Part of the reason that Donovan McIntosh gave up the touchdown is because he stopped his feet on a play action and wasn't able to get over the top. Okay, well, don't stop your feet, right? Don't make that mistake again. Little things like that, I think, it's the difference between winning and losing against Iowa State, right? But if you can get better at that as the season goes on, then you'll be more finely tuned when you do get into that Arizona game. Because, I'm looking at the schedule and like North Dakota, they should win that game. I think the spread now is 25.5. I don't know if they'll win by 25. They probably should. And then you look at Army and, just looking at Army, typically they don't get blown out. I mean, I know Notre Dame blew them out last year, but that was when Notre Dame wasn't taking them lightly. Army was considered a college football playoff potential contender at the time, and Notre Dame shut that down. They don't typically get blown out. So I don't necessarily think you'll be able to blow Army out unless you just come out and force them to go 3-and-out. So the next two games, instead of looking at final scores, I caution fans to do that. Don't look at the final score, but instead look at the incremental improvements. And the little things will add up to big things before you get to play Arizona and then ultimately to conference play.
I've got one word for you guys, okay?
Oh, boy.
Execution. A lot of Kansas State's issues in Dublin stemmed from a lack of execution, whether that's dropped passes, fumbling / muffing the football, not gaining a yard.
Missed blocks.
With 1 yard when you need 1 yard on fourth down. Yeah, missed blocks, Fitz. All that's execution. Now, not everything was execution, of course, play calling, and there's a lot of other circumstances in there, but a lot of it stems from execution. So executing those little tiny details in a program like Kansas State, guys, hangs its hat on executing, doing the little things that add up throughout the course of a game. Kansas State didn't do a good job in its season opener, and I think over the next 2 games, or are we counting Arizona 3 games before Big 12 play hits, right? You need to see better execution from the Wildcats.
Isn't that typical week 0 stuff, though, as we wrap this up, guys? Like, isn't that what normally happens in week 0? It's just amplified because you're playing against a good team. If that happened against North Dakota, as you said, Fitz, your speed is able to cover up for some of those mistakes. And so now it's on tape for you to look at and for you to see. So Gilbert, I think our answers are, pretty similar.
Yes.
I think it's good. Honestly, I think it's good that K-State played this game because now they know what they need to get better at, and it's execution.
I just want to say that if there are special teams errors in this game, I'm going to go to my car, get this, and fill it with a substance that I will deny I'm drinking.
Can I have some?
But it starts with vod and ends with ka.
Does it start with gin and end with is?
Nope, but we're going to get there right now. It's time for the 2-minute drill. And here's our question. EMA 2011, Guinness in Ireland. Was it really better? Cole, I'm going to go to you because I know what he's going to say. And this, folks, is a controversial answer. Cole, you're up.
Absolutely. Guinness is better in Ireland. I had it. I was never a really big Guinness drinker, but I tried it. Every time that we had dinner, I had a Guinness. I will say this. Anybody who was there understands. It's not very cold. They don't serve it very cold. Nothing is cold there. There's no ice cubes. They drive on the wrong side of the road. Driving is very difficult. But Guinness in Ireland was so much better. And now I want to try it here just to compare and see, okay, is it really that much better? Because I really enjoyed it. And it would have been, if I lived in Dublin, it would be my drink of choice.
Yos, unload. Just say it and get it over with.
I liked the chocolatey coffee flavorness that came out at Old Chicago here in the Little Apple more than I did in Dublin. That's not to say it was totally better, but I like that part of it better. But it went down. It did go down smoother in Dublin.
Yeah.
But the literal taste, the flavors, right? That aspect of it, I preferred Old Chicago's. Sorry.
I don't like Guinness in the States because of that coffee, that overwhelming bite. I mean, I'm not an IPA guy either, but I vowed we went to that establishment and had a pint before we left. My wife had to finish mine because Guinness in the States to me sucks. It was really good over there. It was a completely different beer. It's more, instead of being bubbly, it's creamy on top, and all the flavors seem to be combined. It's smoother. I enjoyed a delicious creamy pint. It was wonderful.
What was that one we had at that dinner? It was Murphy's.
Murphy's.
I was like, what? I ordered a Guinness.
It's a Guinness knockoff / competition. I did not have one. You had it.
It was apples and orange. It was tomato.
Okay. Yeah, they're trying to knock off the flavor. The two reasons I've been told are that it's pasteurized in the United States due to regulations and not there. And also that the line cleaning is emphatic. It's obsessive in Ireland because it's part of their culture. And you should be cleaning your tap lines no matter what you're serving. But I would think a beer like Guinness could really taste awful through not 100% clean taps. And I'm confident, 100% confident that some bars in Aggieville haven't cleaned their lines since before I was a student. The cleaning their lines is probably, let's get new ones.
Not Taco Lucha or So Long Saloon.
No, not even the
establishment that takes pride in its lines being cleaned.
Right. We know what bars I'm talking about. You didn't have to say that. Nobody's thinking Lucha or So Long or even Tanner's is doing that kind of thing. No. Rockabilly? No. We know.
We're narrowing down the bars. That's it.
Man. I all of a sudden I felt jet lagged and I have no idea why. I didn't feel jet lagged 2 hours ago. Maybe it's too much time with Ryan Gilbert. Is that even possible?
I'm excited. For the last, I think, week and a half, I've either had to see you virtually or in person for like 10 days in a row. And Wednesday, the 27th, when this goes up, I don't think we're doing a show. I don't think I have to see you. It's going to be a great 24 hours without you, Fitz. I'm celebrating.
I'll be doing a show. I'll be talking to the guy on the other side of the panel here and Big B as we do a preview of K-State, North Dakota, record on Wednesdays. the K-State pregame show. Boy, it had a lot of views first time around. We'll see if people show back up after the mojo it put into the world, at least the Irish edition. Thanks for watching or listening, everybody. We'll be back with another podcast next week, but we got a lot more shows coming throughout the week and after the game.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.